Hello, hello, lovely people. Welcome to another Kubefirst Live. Um, always excited to be here. Today I'm sick again, and I was still looking forward for the live stream. I was like, that's going to be amazing. We have great guests. We're going to talk about amazing technology. But if I want to be honest, it's going to take all the energy I have left for today to do that live stream, even if I'm not the one talking the most during the show. Happy to be here. How is life, John?
Life is really good, Fred. Thank you. I'm excited for today's show too. I'm excited that you're here for today's show. I didn't know if you were going to make it. I appreciate you digging deep and being our esteemed MC today. And we have a great guest on the show today, Patrick. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, first of all. And it's a great opportunity to talk here with you guys and to talk about great technology. That's what I love to do, honestly. My name is Patrick. I'm a DevOps engineer since a couple of years now, maybe more than 10 years, more than a decade now, but who cares? And what I do usually is I try to help developers be more productive. And I think that's exactly what we are going to talk about today as well here in the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've known Patrick and company for, I feel like probably about a year and a half, and they've been doing some really great stuff in the area of breaking down monoliths and trying to produce faster rapid development for Kubernetes apps, and they loved what we were doing on the platform side, and we loved what they were doing on the rapid app development side, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to get the two groups together and put some neat stuff on screen.
And it's probably that's going to be really interesting. I need to say, John and I already had like the pitch and the demo product about Grapple, and we just thought that was why it was a great idea to have them on the show, because those are great product pitch. We like what you're doing, and we want more people to see the amazing work you're doing. So today, that's going to be all about your product and talking about it. I think I'm impatient. I want to jump right into the topic of today. Can you introduce us to Grapple solution?
Yes, absolutely. For that, I think best we start with the first slide. I have prepared a couple of slides, not many, don't worry. I'm also rather a tech guy, not loving slides too much, but rather command lines. And you already stole my first slide, by the way, John. I just wanted to talk about why we are here and how we came together. And I think we came together through Sibo. Sibo, great technology. We are also using it very often for testing and for demoing our product, but also for deploying live clusters. And then we found you guys and your amazing product. And we thought, hey, I think together we have something amazing, something really cool that we want to demonstrate today and to see how that works. And so maybe to start, I wanted to show something about the history of Kubernetes. I think most of you know that, but I just try to summarize and see a bit how the idea of Grapple came together. So actually, when everything started, Kubernetes, then it was rather stateless, and with the time, people added state, and Kubernetes was getting stateful, and then there came data on Kubernetes. There was a community where I got some ideas for this slide from, so thanks a lot for that. And then also infrastructure on Kubernetes with the likes of Crossplane, and so I think, and also with you, with Kubefirst. So where can the future bring us? I think that's the question that we can that we have asked ourselves, and then we came up with the following. So we think, why just generate infrastructure on Kubernetes? You can also go a bit further, and you can automatically generate or create application components for yourself and for your applications, for your cloud native applications within Kubernetes. So that was the idea how we came to Grapple. And how can you do that? So I think what we built is a toolkit for cloud native application development. It helps being a bit, tries to help being more productive when you develop something new, or also try to replace something existing. And so our target was to create components for web applications with as little coding as possible, using automation and possible configuration, so that you can also build complexity into your automated generated application. We will see a lot of that later in the demo. And the target is to be able to provide fast, affordable, and also standardized cloud-native application components that can be used and reused. I think the perfect use cases for Grapple are like greenfield projects in the first instance, prototyping or POC development, but actually literally any application development that you might do in today's world. How can we, or how do we do that? So we actually started with developing an instant API generator, which allows you to generate APIs with only a simple manifest in Kubernetes. That's one thing. And the second part of the main core Grapple solution is a UI module factory, which then takes everything that has been generated in the API and generates standard UI module components for that are easily reusable and usable in the most modern UI development frameworks like Next.js, React, Angular, and so on and so on. And well, at the end of the day, if you want to develop and you want to develop fast and don't want to have to do anything with Kubernetes, yeah, there needs to be some support in orchestrating your services, microservices, and so to make it easier and more convenient for the developer. So that's the three main topics that we looked at and that we tried to build a solution upon. Why did we do that? I think, yeah, in general, I think to gain efficiency, to be faster, to build something quickly, and to be more productive, to have tools in your hands that allow you to do things that you do often or should do often, much more easily than it is done in today's world. And we tried to come up with some ideas in this regard, and we'll see how that works in the demo later. And yeah, you can make your own mind whether it's increasing productivity for you or not.
I like that. It makes me think, you know, like when there's a diagram when you talk to a customer and they want to have it like fast, or they want to have it like cheap, or they want to have the quality, and you're always like choose two of those. But yeah, like Grapple is like, yeah, you can have all those fours and you're still going to be successful. Like you can have those four pillars. So great job, Patrick. And by the way, just want to highlight there's Bill, part of the team. He's our customer success manager. Say hi and thank you for being on the show, Patrick.
Thanks a lot. Hi, Bill. Okay, and yeah, just quickly summarizing again what we maybe already partly have seen before in a bigger context. So you don't just have the instant API generator and the module factory. You are in Kubernetes, and you have all the stuff around that helps you to integrate with a platform like Kubefirst and to bring your own stuff and attach it to the things that you build with Grapple. And we have already worked on many solutions to make that possible and easy. But today, I think we will focus rather on this blue box with our demo. That's
All
it.
right. Live demo time. That's what everybody's waiting for. This is exciting.
That's the part we love.
That's the part we love, exactly. And how do we start a great demo? I mean, we are all fans of Kubernetes, so let's take it.
I start all my great demos by just acknowledging that the demo gods are real and acknowledged. That's how it should always start. I think you're going to have a great show now, Patrick.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, getting started in the cluster, you can see the standard Kubernetes cluster with standard Kubefirst installation and a bit of Grapple in it. So, and we will focus our demo now on this part, but everything else is there as well. So you can make use of your deployment pipelines, of your build pipelines, and everything. But also use the Grapple components on the way there. So then what did we do? So to get started, we created a CRD. The CRD is actually allowing you to configure an API. We call that Grapple, so Grapple API. I don't like to type much, therefore it's called Grapple. But you can also use Grapple application set if you want, or Grapple API if you want to type a bit more. But at the end of the day, what it is a summary of fields that allow you to configure your API and to generate your API. And just to look at some of the examples, how the documentation in the cluster will look like. You can see here, for example, we look at the MySQL component. So it's a data source specification for MySQL. And this is actually a connector, building a connector to MySQL. And it allows you to configure the connector inside of the cluster with using all the existing secrets that you have coming from Vault, coming through Kubefirst or whatever, and you can attach that directly here. Or you can also build your own local clusters. We'll do that later in the demo. And just another example of the documentation. So this is always, I think, always a good documentation. So you're in the cluster, you have the documentation always with you. You don't need to go somewhere else to see the documentation. You have everything here. And well, you have a discovery. So we have two systems, two main areas or ways to explore data. Usually, if you build an API, you have some kind of data behind. And you can either discover the data, which means that you attach a database and you have something in that database, some tables or whatever. And you go there and configure a discovery that discovers what is there and builds automatically some APIs on the basis of what is already in that database. That's one way of building it. And the other way of building is we call that model-based. So this is the discovery-based API, and we call the other one model-based API, which means that you actually define the models inside of the manifest, and then you can actually define all the values that you want and define what kind of structure you want to deploy. And if you define the structure, then you can transfer that into the database and create the database on the basis of what you defined here. So like an ORM system or so, if you're a developer, you might have used ORM systems probably in today's world. And this is something similar just inside your Kubernetes cluster. And we also have the UI modules part that I wanted to show you before or explained about before. So there's the API, and then on the top of the API, you build UI modules. So we call that Grapple UI modules, GRIM. And if we look at the specification here, it's exactly the same. So you have a lot of possibilities how to configure your UI modules, to style them, to define standard settings for your UI modules that you can easily reuse them. How does that look like when we actually deploy them into the cluster? So as an example, I just show here one deployed example, what it has generated. You can see a lot of resources, as usual. If you look at the Kubernetes resources, the most interesting probably is the pods. So looking at that, you can see that we have deployed a database here alongside with an API and a UI module, and it's all just one pod and running and connected, and it generates also host names and ingresses, which allow you then to interact with the data and the API and the UI modules.
And Patrick, the discovery mode that's producing these models, how many different databases are you able to sort of reach into and pull a model out of?
To pull the model out of, it's supported for most modern databases that you might use, or Postgres, MySQL, MS SQL, DB2, and Oracle as well, for sure. And you can also interact with the data in the writing mode. So if you write the data into the database, then it's many more. But it's focusing for the discovery on those databases I mentioned. And I think there's also a lot of NoSQL databases that you can use if you want to push your data into the database. And we also see it later an example of a Redis database, for example, to interact with.
Neat.
That's pretty cool. Just before you jump back into the email, I just want to say hi to Chris, who is joining us. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining us. And someone we know, Steve, from the Cloud Native Club. Thanks also for joining us. By the way, we shared on social media not long ago, John and Javier were on the Cloud Native Club, to talk about the Kubefirst journey. So I'm going to share the link a little bit later during the show, but feel free, please go watch the episode. That was an interesting show with our friend Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, great idea. I could show how this cluster actually came together. So if we look at the installation command for how to install that cluster, you can see that I just created a Siebo cluster with Kubefirst, and I installed the catalog application. So Grapple Solutions, the Grapple Solution Framework is available in the GitOps catalog of Kubefirst. So that's the easiest way to get started.
That's neat. Yeah, that was one of the things that honestly is really exciting to me, is how deep Grapple got into the GitOps catalog to more than just use it as like a simple Helm install of a product, but to more deeply integrate the product with the platform, and lean on the expectations of the tech that was going to be in that platform. It produced a really nice, rich experience, and it's a use case for Kubefirst that I'm anxious to get more companies thinking that same way of just like, I know there's a lot of cloud native tech in the world that solves a complicated problem, but also requires a complicated setup. And I think that the Kubefirst platform just provides that demo space for companies that have products that are in that sort of really powerful tool, but a lot of setup to be able to demonstrate how the tool works type of ecosystem, or not even just for demos, but maybe your end users want to be able to use your tool in a production ready Kubernetes cluster without necessarily needing all that goes with running a Kubernetes cloud native open source ecosystem, and leaning on the technologies that we put together offsets a lot of that burden. And I know the other element that Grapple is captured my attention on is just kind of the story of the monolith that's not cloud native yet. We've all at least heard of that company that is maybe a little bit more enterprise, maybe been around the block a little bit longer, and they just have really big and gross problems in their clouds, and they want to get out, but getting out is hard, especially if you're trying to get out of a monolith while you're trying to adopt cloud native. And adopting cloud native is a hard job, and getting out of a monolith is also a different hard job. And I think the two products just worked really well together to sort of offset both of those burdens for companies that have monoliths, that are trying to modernize, that are trying to shave off microservices from that monolith. I think Grapple just provided a really neat fast track way to, tap into a database, pull in a bunch of models, and all of a sudden, bam, you just have services running in Kubernetes, with really thoughtful implementation about the way that the services are constructed, which is something that you just can't do immediately if you're not a cloud native shop. It takes a little bit of ramp up to come up to speed with the standards of Kubernetes, and the standards that are expected by the cloud native space. And I really like the way this auto-generated mechanism provided good opinions on those Kubernetes components.
And Steve was saying like monoliths still make money in production, and that's what it's all about, which is kind of you're kind of right.
You can't get rid of the enterprise products. They're what's making the money,
Exactly. And
you can still do this, but what you actually could do is use Grapple or another framework to make also use of that data behind the monoliths in another way, and make it available for more modern and other application types.
That's a really good point.
Also a possibility. And I also wanted to add one additional point, selling point for your Kubefirst. So our problem, like many other similar companies might have, is you start building your product for one Kubernetes cluster, and you start integrate the surrounding environment, and then you go to the next, and you have a lot of efforts, and you don't have standardization, you don't have harmonization, and Kubefirst solved that problem for us. So we just integrated once into Kubefirst, and we are on cloud, Google Cloud, on Civo, on AWS, and now on Azure. I haven't tried it out yet, but also on Azure.
Yeah, very true. Very true. That's a great
pay Patrick. We pay Patrick to say that.
It did feel like a paid advertisement, didn't it? That was just beautiful.
That was a great one. Thanks, Patrick, for sharing. We have a question from the audience. Chris was saying, "I'm no expert, but would it be more cost efficient to refactor monoliths in cloud native environments?"
Absolutely, yeah. So lift and shift. Most bigger companies start with going to the cloud. They take their monoliths, move it to the cloud, and it's expensive and not meant for the new modern cloud environments. And it's difficult to manage them, and more expensive than it was on premise for sure. And the only way to build or to really go in a more modern environment and make use of this benefits that you have there is to refactor the monolith. And for starting to refactor the monolith, you can go different ways. You can start hiring a lot of people to rebuild the code and start to refactor a part of the part, or you can use a tool that helps you building up some basis that is already more or less ready to use, but might not fulfill all the requirements yet. And then you can start kind of rebuilding the functionalities that cannot be automatically generated from your data. And you only have to inject those. And we will see later how injections work, where you can make use of the generated modules and build on the basis of those to make life more easy for you, and not to rebuild everything, but get a head start by just having a part of it already there and already in a structure that you can use that is reproducible and that works. And coming back to the demo, I wanted to show you the application set quickly. There is a Grapple application set. It's just a kind of a wrapper around APIs and UI modules. So you can have multiple APIs and multiple UI modules in one application set, and you deploy that application set, and then it will spin up all the required resources for it. And to have a look at such an application set, how that looks like, let's open it in the edit mode, and we will see the structure of that application set. So you can see here now the APIs that we defined. In this case, we have a data source with secrets that come from external secrets or from any other secret source. And then you have the discovery. So this is the discovery mode. That's all you need to build a discovery for your database. And here we have the secrets that I connected. That's, I think, a kubeblocks database here in this case, which creates a secret, so I can just make use of it and include it. And a bit of magic to load data from an external data source. It's kind of a backup or so that I use as a basis for my development. And then you can add additional relationships that might not have been in the database, or you can build relationships from different data sources. So you can have multiple different data sources attached, and then you can build a relationship across the one and the other data source, so to link the information together, which is usually in a database not possible, but here you can actually do that. And then the magic about the APIs is this: it will generate your API on the top of it, and then you have here the configuration of the UI modules, and that's it. So that's a pretty simple configuration file, and it will generate about the following. So it will generate this page for you, which is the API module. And in the API module, you can see that it generates all the REST calls that you would expect: post, delete, patch, get, and you can start interacting with the data. You can also see the relationships are generated automatically. That's the relationship that before there, and so on. So, and you can really interact with this data, and as a benefit, you get a fully blown open specification that you can use and implementing it into an application or whatever. It's also possible to have authentication layers on top of it and so on. I will not go into those details, but that's all available. And the second layer, the UI modules, that's what we can see here. So the APIs, I think you know that. Everybody, or most of you that have already built an API, you know the API specification. That's a bit more special. That's why I take a bit more time to look at that. So you have all the same endpoints that we have here, customers, employees, I don't know what. The same endpoints have been generated here, and these are some basic UI models that have been generated for it. I have to make it a bit smaller to see. So, and these are modules, so you can really extract them and use them in your application. As an example, we have also, with every deployment, we also deploy such a module overview. Like this, you can see what kind of modules you have and how they would look like at the end of the day. And all the names of the modules are here listed as well. And there's many. They all automatically generate, and you can use them and configure them in your application. We will later have a quick look at how to consume those UI modules. And they not only come with automatically generated, but also come with documentation, like what kind of modules do I have? How do I make use of them? And also, how can I configure them with properties? So, and the same kind of documentation is also available on our website, but this one is explicitly configured together with the package that was deployed. So you can see your content there and not a standard content that you have to apply. And you can copy and paste around the code snippets to make use of it. This is the example of discovery. And we have here the same example from the model-based approach, where we have just the 3 models that have been defined in the manifest, and it's exactly the same thing. And you have your open API specification, and you have your UI models in exactly the same way.
It's really neat.
Okay, then what's the biggest problem if you do automation like that? Complexity, usually. Mm-hmm. Mostly, if you generate stuff, and then you're stuck. So you cannot move, you cannot migrate, you cannot patch, you cannot inject. And we call that injection at our place. So in every layer that we built, in API layer, in UI module layer, and also later in the application itself, you can patch and you can inject. Injecting means that you write little pieces of code that make use of the existing generated stuff, models, modules, UI or backend, doesn't matter. And then you can make use of that and generate something additional. So implement business logic that cannot be implemented in data, or make links between 2 different data sets, or build something special like grouping and stuff like that with very simple mechanisms. And that's what we call injection. And with injection, you can achieve things like, so this is just an additional configuration that allows you to also deploy a GraphQL layer on top of the existing API that was generated, and you can make use of that with the benefits of having integrated documentation from the GraphQL layer here, and a neat interface to interact with the data. And what is especially useful is to limit the data that you retrieve. So you can explicitly specify that you only want to have these 2 fields, for example, and then get only.
Can you zoom? Can you zoom a little bit, Patrick?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Thanks a lot. I have a pretty big screen, so I don't see.
I know, but on the live stream, it seems like real small. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So you have this as an interface. So if you send this configuration, you can define what you actually want to retrieve. So you can add additional fields, and if you do that, then you automatically also get the additional values back. Like this, you can reduce the data that's been transferred between backend and frontend and so on, and you can make use of that. That's one way of extending the generated APIs. But there's also many other ways. Like, for example, here we see a relation. There's many different kinds of relationships, so we can support most of the known relationships that you have in a database. And this one is a one-to-N relationship. You can just see that you can get all this information with a very simple query to the backend, and you can display that. You can make use of that in your application directly from the backend, or you can also generate the relation into the UI modules. We will see some example of that later as well. What's that for? Oh, no. Okay. Here, for example, that's a type of relationship that we display here directly in the US. It's all generated. There's no code, no injection. This is all just configuration in the matter of a manifest, and you can get your UI modules adjusted like this to display and edit and add relationships. That's another example of an extension. This is also without injection. You have the possibility to specify in your API so-called fuzzy search, like this. So you have your fuzzy search, and you can specify what kind of configuration parameters you want to have for your fuzzy search, and then it will automatically generate a fuzzy search for you that you can use. So I'm searching here for Ziegler with a Z. I make it bigger. So with a spelling mistake, and still I get my result because of the fuzzy search. So it's not a direct search. And you can also then enable that same thing in a UI. That's just an example how we can do that. So this is a Grapple application now that we see a real use case. And if I search here for my name, then I'll find my name. But if I spell it wrong, I still find my name because of the fuzzy search that was enabled for this particular field. And it's all, as I said, it's a manifest that specifies the fuzzy search and the property that enables the fuzzy search in the UI module, if you want to. So complexity, and that's another example of a bit more complex API call. It's all generated, no injection. And with injections, you can even do more if you want. So there's really, we try to make sure that complexity can be and supported with Grapple, with generating complexity.
I like that. I really like that. I want to bring. We're talking about complexity and monoliths. Steve left a couple of comments about that, which is not really a question, more like a comment. While refactoring monoliths for cloud-native environments seems cost-effective on paper, it's crucial to consider the hidden costs. Significant engineering time, business disruption during transition, and increased operational complexity for managing distributed systems. Sometimes a well-running monolith might actually be more cost-efficient than a poorly designed microservices architecture suffering from network latency and data consistency issues. So wanted to share that because that's a good take on just the tech world. I would say, like, some things look better on paper. They look more cost efficient on paper, but you don't think about all the variable around it that may not give you the results you want, or not at the time and the cost or the speed you want.
Yep.
Thanks for sharing, Steve.
Absolutely agree, Steve. Thanks a lot for the input. But yes, sure. It always is a question of whether it makes sense, whether you want to make something fresh and new out of it, or whether you want to keep it as it is. Cash cows, for example, why should you change a cash cow? One day it's dead, and then you would have invested for a dead cow. And who wants to invest for a dead cow? For sure. I mean, it's always dependent on the use case at the end of the day, but it's not only for rebuilding monoliths or monolithic applications. You can build something new if you want, or you can integrate with the data and still keep your monoliths. I would say that's probably the best use case in the first instance, to have another way to access the data of a monolith. That's probably that's more often worse than really replacing the monolith, and then see how it goes. Maybe there is a way to get rid of the monolithic application. Maybe there's not. Maybe it doesn't make sense. For sure. I just put some small use cases together, how we build applications with Grapple and how they look like. So in this simple case here, we have a simple UI for tennis trainers to record their training sessions. So you can see that this part here is injection. So we have a calendar element that we included as a component, and we display on the calendar element, we display information about from Grapple inside this calendar. And then we have possibilities to add new records and store them and search. You have seen that already before. when I demonstrated the fuzzy search, and there's a lot of possibilities. That's all standard Grapple. We don't have to talk about whether it looks nice. The look and feel can be changed, and it's also possible to change what kind of UI modules you want to generate. So you can have your own set of UI modules that you want to generate and include that in the deployment, and it will generate your UI modules in the style that you like and not in the style that we like. And this is easy for us. And you can integrate with that data and whatever. And then there's a backend, and the backend is I would say the main area where Grapple benefits can be visible. So the backend is actually nothing than this component that we have built before, this one injection, and then the rest is all standard Grapple components that are displayed here and a bit configured, and so on.
It's really neat.
And that's all more or less, so let's say this admin area is more or less generated with a couple of injections and a couple of amendments to properties and stuff.
So let me ask you, Patrick, like you use Grapple, you pointed maybe a database that you've got, you generate the models, you generate the UI components, and you've got this nice visual entity that can let you edit in a CRUD-oriented way your content, right? And let's say that that's like perfect for you, exactly what you want, except that you need it to just have some other user interface widget on that form field. You need a button to be able to, I'm not sure what, something beyond the data, something to send an email to somebody, or to generate a Slack alert, or whatever it might be. It could be anything under the sun. Is it the injection implementation that allows you that ability to sort of squeeze your own desires inside of the components, or would you go about it a different way?
Yes, absolutely. So we usually see an application as 3 layers. There is a 1 layer generated API with injections, and an injection probably could be something like an email sending API or whatever, where you can just send in some information. It will take care of the sending of the email for you. That's one possible injection. You can handle that differently, but that's one possibility. And then we would have the UI layer, and the UI layer is also standard generated stuff with some injections, with some extensions. Do I have an example? I think I do have an example here. No. Let's can I park your question to 5 minutes or so, and I'll come back to that. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
The third layer will then be the application, and that's where the magic happens. So it's usual. If you have an application, then the magic happens in the application, and you make use of the components that you have from the backend. So it will generate the first and the second layer, and the third layer is your world. And you can make use of the first layer, second layer, and you can build whatever on top of it, what you like, in the way you like. So there is no dependencies on writing an injections for Grapple, because this requires a certain way of how to build the injection. But if you build the application on top of it, you can do that however you want.
Understood.
You can make use of the elements that you like. We'll build that together later.
Let's do it.
In a couple of minutes. Okay, so the second use case that I wanted to quickly demonstrate is an application that we built for Mercedes. You have a UI, and if you can upload here a PDF, which is an invoice for buying a vehicle wheel, winter wheel. So if you have to switch, like for example, Fred probably has in Canada, to switch from summer wheels to winter wheels, then they give you a certain offer, and you can upload your invoice here, and you get some cash back. And this is for registering the cash back. And you can upload your invoice. The invoice will be processed, and the information will be extracted out of the invoice and then saved in Grapple format. And then the backend is again a quick win. No, not quick win, but you can see the style. So it's again a pure Grapple application that is configured, and you can go through a process, and you can do some reporting and stuff like that. It's all Grapple, a bit injected and a bit styled and amended. But this is also, again, the application around it, which uses the components, as you said before. And if you would need to build magic, like, for example, I think there is a configuration screen somewhere. No, that's all Grapple components. So that's the other use case I wanted to show you.
You need to send that cashback application to Canada. We need to change your tire, but we don't have any cashback, so maybe we can use that to save a little bit of money.
Right.
Do you actually ever change to summer wheels?
Sorry? Oh, summer wheels. Yeah.
Do we ever change to summer wheels, or do you always drive with winter wheels?
No, actually, we are not. We're forced to, like in Canada, like there's actually where I live in Quebec, like there's a date where you need to have winter wheels, and there's you need to keep it until like a specific date. So after, if you want to keep the winter wheel during summer, it's fine, but nobody does that because the winter wheels are more expensive. So everybody changed them for like summer tire that are less expensive. So yeah, we have to change our tire like twice a year.
Not to turn it into a car show, but I have one follow-up question. What do you do with the tires? Do you keep them at home, or do they keep them at the shop?
It depends. It depends on your garage. Like previously where I was living, I didn't really have much space to keep the tires. I was paying the mechanics to keep it for me. They had like the space for that. But now that I have like enough space to my new house, I just bring them back to me. Yeah.
The same for me, Fred. So I also used to give them to the garage earlier when I lived in a flat, and now in a house I have a bigger garage and I can keep them at home.
Exactly.
Not living in Canada, by the way. And just as an example, I built a very, very simple UI application that's just for demo purposes. You can see here, I make use of one of the generated applications. So it's my discovery application that I generated before, and I connect to a remote entry, which allows me to connect to the UI modules. And now I go from there. Let's start the application and see what happens. Oh, wrong screen. Just a sec. So this is my application. Not very complicated, but it shows what it should, hopefully. So you can see that the only thing that I had to build is an app Svelte. I built a Svelte application, but it can be React or anything else. What I need to do is I define an import for one of the modules that we have seen before, customer account, and this will show this button here. And then I can go and change some things, and you can see that, for example, now I injected a where condition into my filter into my account module, and it will automatically update if I develop it. So it's using the backend component, and in the UI I can administrate or I can change the configuration of the application. And as an example, I can change styles and whatever I want. And a bit more complicated what is integrated here. So let's have a look at that as well. But it's not much more complicated. I think it's this one. Let's see. You see that I just changed the filter, and it will show accordingly the results that I want to see. And it's going through UI module, backend database, and it's all automatically generated. I didn't do anything. I can do translations, and you can see automatically that it's simple to update an English application to a German application inside of the consuming application. So I don't need to change the generated module. I can just make use of it, translate it, and put it into my application. I can change date formats. I can change styles, whatever I like. And I can also, for example, add bulk actions. So this is one kind of injection that I can do. So in this case, I injected actions, and you can see that's an action demo. And if I run that here, I have a new action, which is called demo. And if I click it, then something happens. Can be anything that happens here. In the demo, it's just a simple pop-up that is opened, but you can inject functionalities into the generated module without the need to change it. So that's the very quick demo of how to consume UI modules. This is, by the way, a Webpack module federation, so compatible with a lot of other stuff. And Yeah,
I see
that's
you're
about.
using Svelte. I've never used it. How is it as a programming language for generating UI?
I can't answer that question. I'm not a UI developer at all.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But I can forward the question to my UI developer, and he'll answer it for you.
Yeah, I was just curious because I've never used this technology, and I was I know by name, but yeah, never used it. So I was just curious.
It's totally compatible. So we built a lot of React applications with it as well, and it's
Okay.
no problem to use them. The Svelte components in React.
Awesome, thanks.
So next, what I wanted to show is a development mode. So now we have seen a lot of, let me just, one more thing that I wanted to show before we go into the development mode, the certain special feature of our API. So here we can see, just a sec, preparing the right namespace to make it a bit more simple. And we can see here that's a cluster that I defined. The cluster is a Redis cluster. So I promised before that I show something with Redis as well. This is coming now. So this is a simple Redis cluster I spin up in the Kubernetes cluster. And then on that basis, I'll build an application set again. And my application set consists of an API. The API has a data source called Redis. No wonder. And then it connects to an external API. And it creates a cache for my external API. And then it builds a UI module on the top of it. So let's see how that looks like. So here we see, I also did some replica adjustments. So I have an auto-scaling application. So we can see here the 3 APIs that are running, the 3 UI modules that are running that I defined before, and the Redis database. And what it actually does at the end of the day is it creates an ingress. And the ingress, if I open it up in a browser, it will give me what you would expect, the UI modules overview. And now let's jump quickly into the Redis database to show you something. So this is connecting to the Redis database. And now I select all the keys of my Redis database, and I have none. Okay. So let's do something. Let's open up one of my UI modules as an example. And then let's open up ID 4 of my records here. And just to see what happens, what it actually did, it created cache entries for my requests that went through the backend. So remember, there is no backend deployed in my current application. It's a remote backend. I only have an OpenAPI specification link that I have to specify, and I can also add authentication stuff, and I can connect through, go through my backend, go to the remote backend, get the response, cache it locally, and when the request comes next time to my local backend, then I can serve it from the cache. And I can configure the cache for what I want. Do I want to cache this endpoint or not? And all the writing endpoints, they are anyway forwarded to the backend. So like this, I can actually extract my application a bit away from the real backend, and I can build a dummy kind of backend locally on my side, and I can generate UI modules on the basis of my dummy backend without having a real backend, and still have a working application. And I can reduce the load on the database in the backend, and I can improve the setup for building my application and have more speed because of the caching, the local cache available. That's another cool feature of the backend, I think, that I wanted to demonstrate you.
Yeah, that's super impressive.
You can make use of that in any application that you like. And now it's the right time to build an application. So what I do is we have a CLI. I didn't even start to talk about the CLI yet. It has a lot of cool features, but one of the coolest features, I think, is the development mode, the so-called development mode. So I can specify a namespace in which I want to develop. I switch to the namespace, and then I start my Grapple development mode. It will take a bit to spin up. Also here I have a local database configured. Maybe I can show you in the code. It's easier than just talking about it. So here I have a values file. You see I have an API defined. The API has an init container again, which loads data from somewhere to have a basis to work with, to have some kind of test data deployed or a copy of the productive database if I want. And then I can go around and do fancy stuff with it. I connect the data source. So it's opening up one of the other windows as soon as the layers are started. You can see that all the layers are started one after the other. So they're all in my development environment. And actually, what the system does, it spins up a container for each of your layers, and it allows you to hack into that container and develop inside that container, but from your local environment. So whenever there is a change here, it should reflect in the layer that I have changed. So I can test out my injections. I can build on top of what I already have, and this is my application. Again, a very simple application, but it makes I think it makes it better visible what you can do. And so let's try to change something. Let's go here, and this is my API layer. If I go to the API layer, I have a ping endpoint. It says hello from Grapple. Let's try to find my ping endpoint. I have a ping endpoint here, so that's one of the injections that I built. So this could be anything that you develop. You can see that that's code for it. There is an hello from Grapple. So let's update that to hello from construct live demo. And if I save that, after a couple of seconds, it should automatically reflect all the changes that I do in my backend, not only changing the text, but everything that you like. We also have a look at a bit more complicated use cases in a minute. And so we changed our backend. Let's change our UI. So before I said there is standard components that are generated, and there is also kind of injected modules that you can build on top of the standard modules and ship it with the backend modules, so that you can reuse it in different ways and make it more flexible and compatible. And if you do that, then you have also an injection layer here. So you have all the API stuff that you can inject, and you have here UI modules that you can inject. So this is the trainer dropdown that you can see here. And if I just take that and module, if I just make a copy of it, I'm not a UI developer, as I said before, so I'll do something very simple here to not make any mistakes. So it should not take long, and you should see in the backend, in the back here, my UI module. That's my worst nightmare. If something goes wrong with, here, you see here, you have the new injected UI module here. But my nightmare if something goes wrong with UI development. Thanks, Fred.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so we changed the UI layer. So we have 2 layers, and the third layer is the actual application. So why not change the actual application as well? So what could we change? So again, here, quite simple. I just have 3 elements that I display, and I can do some simple changes in the UI, and it should update immediately if I do something that does update. Yeah, so and I can, for example, also use a completely different UI module, and should also update. You can see that it's not it's now customers and not employees anymore as before. So you can easily change that, and this is the consuming the auto-generated UI modules. You can imagine what you can do with it.
What is going on in the background in dev mode? Like when you've got your local host set up, you've got your VS Code on your local host, you've got your is this a SIBO cluster that we're interacting with?
Yes, that's a SIBO cluster.
So you got a SIBO management cluster.
Yeah.
And you are going to your local host code base and hitting save, and it's auto reflecting what is being served. I believe I understand that correctly, by the Kubernetes cluster. What's being sent to Kubernetes, and how does that mechanic work?
It's a sync a simple file sync from my local machine to the Kubernetes cluster. And in the cluster, I kind of spin up the typical PMPM start or the npm dev mode. And I just sync the file into the cluster, and it will the container will take care of the rest. And it will update UI. So
that's a neat trick.
No magic, but magic.
Yeah. Borrowed magic. It's neat.
Yeah. So what else can I show you? Maybe something a bit more complicated. Let's see. Let's try to extend the application that we have. Maybe to quickly show you how that works. So you can see that we are in the cluster. I have my namespace, and all the things are deployed. And we use a tool called DevSpace to do that magic for the syncing, and for creating the local port forwards for me. So you can configure that in a config file. You can also extend that as ever you like. Here, the DevSpace configuration. By the way, the CLI that we use also has a functionality called app init. It allows you to create a new Grapple application, and it will use a template in GitHub and will create a copy of the template for you and amend a couple of things that you define in the setup. So a typical app init looks like that. I think that's the one that I used before to create this product. And from there, everything else is what you have seen here. So you can really clone that repository, and you can start developing, and you can change whatever you like. We also added to the template a couple of neat tools, like, for example, task file, where you can deploy and build the manifests that you have, and it'll help us also to attach the injections to the manifest. So if you build injections, it will actually extend the manifest, and it will be shippable in one manifest. Your deployment that you auto-generate, and also the injections that you build. And like this, you can easily patch the injected files. So the files that are lying here in the folder, these files, they are actually converted into the manifest in order to have one block, one file that we can transfer. And then you can easily deploy this one manifest from one cluster to another if you want to, or you can use your staging module and use that to generate this manifest into your Helm chart that you deploy from development to production, and you can go from there and extend it as you like.
It's really neat.
Yeah, I promised you to do something a bit more complicated, so let's try that. So in this case, what I do here is I use our Grapple API, and I do create a new model. If I run that command, it should go into the right container, run something, and it will create a new model in the backend. So if I would go now into the container, I could show you that there is a new model generated and stuff. And now what I can do next is I can migrate the database. So in this case, we have a model-based approach. So I need to migrate into the database, and this will then actually go and create the tables that are required, or create the relationships that are required. And from there, then I can, with another command, generate the API. In this case, we generate a product, what was it called? Product lines API. Oh. Product details, sorry. Now, in this case, I just extended the existing product lines. Oh, just give me a sec. I need to. So we had here product lines API, which contains a couple of fields, and I changed those fields in that API. So you can see that here with the command, I changed to have HTML description, and construct live should appear here now. Let's see. Not yet. So I did something wrong. Let me just do it one more time. So I should add construct live. Let's try it again. Okay, let's see. So I have my new field construct live here, and it's added automatically to the backend. And now what should I do? Next, I think, is to update the UI module. So you see that in the current version of the product lines, we do not have probably that particular field in there. Like this. Yes, I do not have Kubefirst live here yet. And if I just update my UI modules, it will read the content of my API definition. It will update my UI module, and it might take a bit to refresh. But then it actually should come up with showing me the additional field that I just added. Let's see. Hooray. And I can actually interact now with the new data.
Super neat.
Well, a couple of command line and everything is added. I like that.
Yeah, that's the one way of interacting with Grapple. And the other way is actually to build out your manifest in date form. And you would add here, for example, the additional fields or the additional product lines or whatever you want. And you can rebuild the deployment, and after rebuilding, it will automatically show up the new fields that you have generated, and you can make use of it. And it will automatically be reflected in the UI module and also in the consuming part. So if I would now use the UI module here and do something with product lines, then I should see the new field. Product lines find. No items. Okay, I need to add items first, yeah. Let's just do something here. That's Fred, and that's John. And if
You're setting yourself for failure now.
You see, and you have your Fred and your John deployed in your UI. So that's the application at the end of the day, and I didn't have to change my application at all. It will all be reflected automatically in my application because I make use of this UI module, and the UI module is updated automatically.
Super cool. I was feeling lucky the whole time. I knew it was going to work.
That's amazing.
That is very impressive. You guys have covered a ton of territory in this process, and I love the architecture decisions that you guys have made. I had to make, albeit in a very different space. We made many of the same architectural decisions. We also kind of have it's not a rapid application development tool, it's a rapid platform engineering tool. But we struggled with that concept as well of like, when you're talking rapid application, when you're talking rapid anything development, there's often a tendency that you're trapped at the end, that you're encapsulated in this boundary that you can't get out of. And the way you guys have set it up here, where you're able to generate the content and able to extend beyond the generation, or you allow them to inject into the generation. That allows that ejectability from the framework, allows you to take it and run and go any direction that you want. I love that angle of the architecture that you guys put together. And I think everybody that kind of looks at any kind of rad tool should have their guard up. You know, it's you are regularly just kind of caught in this this box. But you guys have done a really great job making that the end user's starting point, and they get to kind of take it and run with it from there. And I think the product speaks for itself. You know, just not a lot of application writing going on during this live stream, and we have seen a ton from the Swagger, or I guess we call it Open API these days, to the model generation, to the UI components. I do kind of wonder out loud if you can just help me understand the full scope here. So you use Grapple, you build out this app against maybe a legacy database, and you want to extend some visibility into that data but you want to serve it up to some new user for some new use case in a new way. So you decide that you're going to use Grapple, and you point it at the database, you build out the models, et cetera, et cetera. You get this application, it does all the stuff that you want it to do. And now the enterprise application, the enterprise database that you haven't been touching the whole time, that you're just trying to hook into, they go through some change and they update, I don't know, maybe they add some tables, maybe they add some fields to the existing tables that you've hooked into. Is that just a matter of making a decision of how that impacted the application that you've built? And then if it did impact the application that you built, you have a decision to make about whether it just needs to be regenerated and then extended from there again, or if it was something where you didn't have to extend beyond the native Grapple, then you could just regenerate and it would just continue to work against the new variation of that table. And then just my follow-up lack of understanding is like thinking through the application delivery, where you want to deliver this to like a dev in a stage in a prod environment, in a setup like that, where maybe only the development environment has received these new fields. I don't have great clarity in like what to do about that in terms of making, I guess you just make the adjustment, you generate if you need to generate, you extend beyond that if you need to extend beyond that, however you needed to adjust it, and then you just end up with your app instance that you promote to development as the database that we're talking about has those fields. And then whenever that gets promoted to staging and you have to update your staging version of the app just ships to staging, right?
And exactly, that's what I would do as well. Yeah. So if you're in the discovery mode and you want to be database driven, then you have a database. If you change it, you refresh the API, and we also have a trigger that you can start, which from time to time verifies whether the API specification is the same or not. And if it's not the same, then it will automatically spin up a new version. So it will not shut down your existing one. It will still work, and as long as it builds a new one, it will still operate with the old OpenAPI structure, and it will then spin up a new one, and it will replace it eventually as soon as it's completed. That's the perfect way to go, and you can do that with a staged approach as well. So in this case, I've used a local dev database, so you can try out the things on the dev environment. You can just go into the database, create something new, rerun or rebuild your API layer, and you'll see what happens. If you're happy, do the same thing on staging
Right.
and in production. And if you're the other way around, so it depends, all has its advantages and disadvantages, and I think it depends from use case to use case or from organization to organization. Others are more code-driven, and you want to build your models. You can define your models exactly, and then you'll generate whatever you changed into the database, and you can do that first in dev, and then in staging, and then in prod very similarly. But you should have your own database for each stage, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get mixed up probably on the process.
Very
And then you can profit from the new changes in the UI modules and in your applications if you have used those UI modules. And if you don't want to have those new fields or so, you can just go there and define a new hidden field here and deploy that along with it. And then you can hide everything that has been added, or you can build a layer of authentication on top of this particular field to make it only appear if you're logged in with the right user or whatever.
Very cool. Thank you for helping me understand that.
That sounds amazing. John, one of the comment you said is something that I wanted to say, but you were faster than me. It's like every time there's a product that tell me like, as a developer, I'm going to make your life easier, I'm always stuck with like a bunch of things that I cannot do. And like, I'm stuck with like what the product decided that I could do with it. So I really love that Grapple let me extend whatever you created for me as a developer. Like you let me extend or modify or like it is my stuff, and like I hone it, and I can do whatever I want with it after. So good job on that.
Thanks a lot.
Definitely. So Patrick, did you have anything else that you wanted to get on screen for your demo?
Yeah, just as a wrap up, we summarized somehow all the things that we have shown and what we think is relevant here. And I think we can share the slides with you later so that you can put them next to the video or so if somebody is interested. And yeah, feel free to contact us if you have any questions or if you find it interesting and want to get your hands dirty with it. We would love any kind of feedback. So we are really open to your use case and to your problem and to hear about it, and would love to hear your opinion, especially as well.
Right on. Yeah. And for anybody that wants Grapple and doesn't know how to get it into a cluster easily, you can just run Kubefirst, Sivo create, or pick your cloud. And as Patrick showed us a little earlier, add the flag for the GitOps catalog edition of Grapple, and you're on your way. So that's you could do it. You could do a lot worse. You know, you run a single command, and then you get a whole new cloud. You get a whole new management cluster. You get all the best cloud native open source tools on the planet all working together. And then you get a rapid application development ecosystem that you can, as Patrick showed us today, just point at a database, build out some models, some UI, and then all of a sudden you're running in Kubernetes, ready to go in production if you're ready to go in production. So that's a lot for a single command. Very, very cool demo today, Patrick. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was always great with talking with you and hearing your feedback and your questions, and it always inspires and motivates.
Thank you so much, Fred.
Great.
Awesome. I think this brings us to a really special part of the show, doesn't it?
I think so. But before we go there, I want to thank everybody who joined us live today. I want to thank also everybody who watched the recording. This is the last show of 2024. So we finished this with Patrick. Thanks for being our guest today. That was amazing. So that's the last show. We're going to be back in January 16th. For the first Kubefirst Live of 2025. Let me tell you, actually, I won't tell you. We have a lot of interesting guests coming in 2025. We are scheduling those right at this time of the year. I want to wish everybody who is celebrating the holidays, have great holidays, happy Christmas, happy New Year. Hope you have some time to disconnect a little bit, take some time with families and friends, and come back in 2025, to kick some cloud native ass. Yeah. So on that note, I'm happy that you talk about CLI, Patrick, today. I was expecting that. I have a question for you, folks. What did the command line die of?
What did the command line die of?
What is the cause of the death of the command line?
Why did the command line die? I don't know, Fred. Patrick, you got a guess?
A kill command or something like that.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
That's a good one.
What's the answer?
The command line die of a terminal illness.
Yes, we did. We'll miss that terminal.
So before we'll let the show end, David would like to thank you guys for all your work. I'm grateful for the spoon feeding. Have a wonderful holiday, friends. Chris was like, it's fire. And I think Chris was talking about Grapple, not my really bad jokes. And Steve, I don't know if you answered right on time, but yeah, terminal illness was the
I say we got to give it to Steve on that one.
I think so.
Steve got it.
I think so. Congrats, Steve. You're the one of the first one to answer my ridiculous, dad developer joke at the end of the show. So on that note, everybody, thanks again for joining us. Always a pleasure to be with you. Thanks again, Patrick. For being our guest. Always a pleasure to have amazing people showing all the hard work that they've done. Thanks again, everybody. that was a great year for live stream. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't remember what episode is this. I think it's episode 45 or
45.
46. So yeah, we're continuing to do those live stream. It's not the end of it. We're coming back next year with more amazing guests and interesting cloud native topics for you folks. If you have any suggestions, if you have any comments, if there is any guest or specific product you would like us to highlight during the live stream, please let us know. Since we do that every 2 weeks, I need a bunch of guests and a bunch of great application. There's a lot of those out there, but always happy to get any suggestions. So I'm stopped talking, and I think it's time to say bye to people. So have a good rest of the day, folks.